What's up, Horde? How you doing? This is my doctor voice. I'm here for another Kirsten Coping episode, and with always is my team of I say trained. They're Tony Corp trained specialists, but we have Tango. Hi, Tango.
Hello.
Courtney. Hi, Courtney. And the ever present but always driving Alyssa. How are you, ladies, today?
Not bad.
Good.
Well, first and foremost, to get the disclaimer out of the way, so nobody's liable for any crazy shit that I say. We here, Kirsten Coping, we're not certified medical professionals. We don't self-diagnose. Please do not. By all means, if you have concerns, seek out a medical health professional. And the opinions expressed here are just us and our experiences, trying to give you the best thing we can, and they're for informational purposes only. But if you need somebody to talk to, you can reach us on all our socials. We're very reachable. We have all the social stuff. And if not, cursedesignsllc@gmail.com. We're always available. One of us is always able to help as a friend and whatnot. And at least one of us will be a medical professional legally at some point. Tango. So, other than that, how are you, ladies? How are you?
The day's doing the thing. There you go.
There you go. All right. What a resounding day it has been. So this episode is being alone versus being lonely. And we're also going to cover CPTSD, and by, in the same light, PTSD and depression, which I think all kind of go hand in hand with the topic. We've all kind of, I think everybody may have experienced things like this. So first and foremost, what to you ladies, like you go first, Tango, we'll just go around the horn kind of, what's the difference between like enjoying solitude and feeling lonely? Like what's that mean to you?
That's hard. Because I'm still learning. Like, I can't find the line between the two.
Right. Okay. So if you, let's say you needed some space, or you were feeling just down and like just like you needed somebody, what's the difference to you in that sense of like when like I just need some space, and when you feel like I just need a person?
Oh, I do the body doubling thing for that. So there are times where I need to kind of isolate to get my head on track in the positive way. So I'll like go outside for a walk or whatever and just be myself. But there's other times where it's like I want to be left alone, but I need a person here. And that would be like just put my headphones on. That's the sign at a gym for like leave me the fuck alone. So it's the same thing at home.
Okay. And then like how do you know like when I just need a person, like to kind of
I get really low. Even if I feel like I want to be alone, I know I don't, because I have that like I hate you, I love you, don't leave me thing. But that's because of the BPD. So that's my trigger.
I get that. I think you don't give yourself enough credit too. I think you're really good sometimes at being like, hey, I need my people. And then sometimes you're like, hey. And like I think even being alone, like you're pretty good at like, maybe I need some space, but like I also need my people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Courtney, what about you?
Well, I choose often to spend my time alone because I am working through a lot, and it's easier for me to process things when I'm able to distance myself from everybody else's stuff. So I'm not trying to like involve myself in everybody else's stuff, and I'm just focusing on my own stuff and my own self-care, my own processing, my own therapy, everything that I'm working to grow. But that doesn't mean, just because I choose to spend a lot of time alone doesn't mean that I don't get lonely. And when I do get lonely, I will go over to Alyssa's and hang out at her house for a while, or I'll jump up on the uh, the library and hang out with people there. Um, but I think another big difference is when you're lonely, it's a depressing feeling versus when you want to be alone, it's for growth and healthy feelings.
Right. Like there's a distinct difference of like a heaviness as opposed to like a relief. Like I guess the
Right.
difference is like a relief of like I just need to be away, and that's the relief. Whereas like I'm alone, so like I feel like a weight is on me where you know what I'm saying. Like I need that sort of thing.
Right.
Okay. Alyssa, how about you?
Well, I would say that what's interesting is I feel most lonely when I'm in a room full of people.
Okay.
As far as for that, like, cause you know what I mean. Like, if you're like, cause I've been in homes like where I was like there was never personal space. There was never alone time. And so if I felt lonely, it wasn't because I was alone. It was just because I felt like I wasn't being understood or I wasn't like being able to communicate what I wanted. And so that was a big part of it. But like as far as for me being wanting to be alone, like that's the thing that it's like hard for me to get to because even when I want to be alone, I still prefer to have people around me because I just don't know how to be alone.
Right. Okay, I can see that. Like I, as a person like who I toured for a lot of years and stuff, whatever. Like people would think like, oh, you're having fun all the time, and like you're around a bunch of people. I was around roomfuls of people every fucking night. But like, it still inherently gets lonely because maybe sometimes it's the people you don't. It's you're around people, but they're not the people you want to be around. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So, I'm the same way. I can identify with all those sort of things. I can kind of I'm alone most days because I'm just here working, slaving away at my own fucking, you know, my own tyrant of a work schedule. But I literally I also supplement that with hanging out with you guys and whatnot, and having places to turn to and a lot of like being alone. For me, like I can be alone and be here most days and be fine. It's like when it gets to the point of where like, oh my god, like I feel like I haven't had actual human contact in days, and like it starts to like like it is a feeling like of genuine, like you can feel a change of like I just need human contact. You know what I'm saying? I need that sort of thing. And like before I met you guys, I started hanging out with you guys like a lot of days. It was me here staring at a computer screen by myself in silence. You know what I'm saying? And that like is fine. Like I've dealt with that a lot in my life. But like the feeling of like, man, I don't think I've seen another human being in 4 or 5 days eventually gets to me. And I think so like that's the difference for me is like that feeling of like I don't necessarily like being around people, but when I like feel like I need to be around some of my people, like that's kind of the tipping point of those two ideas. So, um, now can being alone actually improve your mental health? Like, what do you think about that, Tango? Because I mean, a lot of that is like isolation and the difference between that sort of thing. So, what do you think about that?
It really depends on the person. Like for me, no. Like I can't. I need people, or else I lose my mind. I need to have that validation that people can be around me and I can cohabitate with them and like have a healthy relationship or lean on a community when I need them.
Right.
So for some people, I'm sure they're able to because they'd rather just rely on themselves and that's how they're built and they're wired. But I can't do that.
That's fair. And I think it's not forever. Everybody is different. I think it's a good thing to remember, especially with mental health, just like addiction or any of the other things we've talked about. Like it's very much a you thing, and so like what works for you, I think, is best in those instances.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, Courtney, what do you think?
I absolutely think that being alone can help your mental health. I think that it's a matter of how you choose to spend your time and making sure that being alone is the healthy choice for that moment for you. Um, but I think being alone gives you the opportunity to practice self care more and to be with yourself and your thoughts and process those things better. I think that being alone gives you the opportunity to grow in a lot of ways that when you're busy or constantly with other people and can't hear the sound of your own inner thoughts, it may be more difficult to do.
Right. And I think that whole principle of like most people can't deal with their own inner thoughts or don't want to. And I think that's a big part of mental health is that facing things down and taking the time to know when it's time to take time for yourself. And like, you know, being alone, I think also gives you a chance to think about yourself and put yourself first without necessarily coming off as narcissistic or
Yeah,
self-absorbed. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So I see what you're saying there. Alyssa?
Well, I think it absolutely can help if it's not coming from a place of just wanting to isolate yourself for bad reasons, like kind of what was Courtney was saying. Like you have to fill your time with good things. Like if you're just doing it to like kind of self torture, it's not going to help you. But if you're doing it because you actually need space, you actually need time to be with yourself, then absolutely it will help you.
I agree. I think that's the difference between knowing the difference between isolation and needing some space. Like that sort of like, is this going to cause me to spiral or do I just need to clear my head? That sort of thin line is something that like I think sometimes isolation or being alone can grant you that ability to kind of walk that line and know that line because you then do and deal with your internal thoughts and can kind of like know the difference between like do I just want to go wallow in my own self-pity or do I want to actually just clear my head and actually think about what I'm actually thinking about. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
that's people's own thoughts I think scare them. Um a lot of a lot of I've learned over time through very shitty situations how to be alone with myself, like where I was forced to be, and like that sort of thing, and dealing with my own thoughts. And I think um, the my own internal introspection and thinking, learning how to not cause myself to spiral, or like because I've done it even with this group, like literally, if I'm left to my own devices sometimes and I spiral in the middle of the night, like, and nobody's there to fucking pick up the phone or answer a text message or answer the question I need to, or go, hey, you're being unreasonable or you're being irrational. Sometimes I fucking turn up the irrationality to 11. And so, like, fucking, I even struggle with that point, at this point in my mental health journey. So, like, I think that sort of thing of like that line of knowing yourself and dealing with your own thoughts and being able to at least face down your own thoughts, even if you're not good at dealing with them. Like, even if it's like, I need some time to clear my head, and then you start to spiral, like knowing, like Tango uses, like, hey, I just sometimes I tried that, and fucking now I need a village to fucking fix it, that sort of thing. So, which leads me to the other side of the fence, like being alone. But how does loneliness now show up in your everyday life? Because, like, you know what I'm saying, like all of us are also in different points in our own like friendships together and our own, relationships with significant others or anything like that, or not having significant others, whatever. Like we're all kind of in different spaces with that. So, like, how does loneliness show up in your life?
So it started more so like when my fiance passed away, and everyone says like they're there and they're there for like the immediate first maybe 2 weeks, but no one's really there 3 months down the line.
Right.
So it manifested like that, saying you're there but then not being there. It's like you say at night when you're left to your own device. It's the same thing.
Right.
There is the self-sabotage loneliness though, where you're in that deep low with depression and you just can't get out of that spiral, and you truly think you're just there by yourself, lonely, no one cares,
The
but
whole
they
world's
do.
against you.
Yeah. So those are like the two main ways it manifests for me.
Okay. And I think a lot of that is BPD related, just with the self-sabotaging and the feelings of like, oh, fucking the paranoia it almost causes of like fucking everything's going wrong and everybody hates me, when like obviously it's not true. So, okay, Courtney.
Um, so I have CPTSD from being raised by a narcissist and having a string of really narcissistic partners.
Mhm.
And so I'm taking a break from being in relationships for the first time in my life to kind of regain a sense of what love is and uh, like what I deserve and how I deserve to be treated and
That's
what I want in my life. And that choice has been great for me, but there are days where I miss having somebody that I spend every minute of my life with. Um, because I'm so used to that.
right.
Um,
But I think it's a positive step too that you have, or at least realizing that like you need to take those steps, even if it is hard. And
right.
so I think that is a positive step to be cognizant of that sort of thing of like, you know what, maybe I do need to do this, and to make that. It's a very tough decision.
Yeah.
The decision to be alone can cause loneliness, I think, but like that decision to be alone is a very it causes a lot of fear in people because change is inherently involved in it, and being alone is inherently scary because like you are
Right.
only left to yourself, and if you feel like you're not good at dealing with yourself, like what fucking I can't be left in charge here, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought it was a good
No,
point.
it's okay. I think I I do get lonelier occasionally because I'm so used to being in codependent relationships. But realizing that I don't want to be in codependent relationships anymore and I want to choose healthier for myself and choosing to spend my time with people that respect me and value me and treat me right, it it makes it worth it.
And I think that's the reward kind of at the end of the rainbow. And I think you used the word correctly there. Value, I think, is a good word. Like because it's more than I think just love or anything. Like people that value you for who you are, and what positives you bring to their life, whether tangible or intangible. I think is a good thing to realize. Realizing your own self worth, I think, goes a lot with PTSD and complex PTSD and depression. That knowing of your self worth and knowing like yes, I am worth this. And like, despite what I've been programmed to think or feel or anything like I think, your feelings are always valid, but like to try to like challenge your own internal feelings of like, I'm worthless is a big step to do. And I think it's a big step in healing. I think is to do that.
Absolutely. And like I've also had situations where like I've gotten into fights with friends and sat down in therapy and said, why can't I stop beating myself up about this and questioning my actions and my right to feel and think the way that I feel. And my therapist says, because you're putting their emotions above yours, their emotions are more important than yours. And
Right.
so, like, being able to spend more time alone has been able to give me the chance to recognize those behaviors that may get me into situations that are compromising in my mental health more frequently and be able to understand and work on correcting those behaviors more.
Which I think is good. And that's, facing your own internal thoughts and finding value in yourself. And like, there is a way, I think, people would say that's selfish or whatever, but like, I think in mental health specifically, you should be selfish because like you were unselfish to the point of it hurting you. So now
Right.
it's time to focus on yourself and kind of relearn that value in yourself and to go like,
Yeah.
yes, other people's emotions are important. If I care about that person, their emotions are important. That, having empathy, but like the fact of like I need to also be empathetic to myself internally and
Right.
feel that like I have self-worth and value, because if you can't value yourself, you can't properly in a healthy way value anybody else.
Right. Absolutely.
Alyssa?
Um, for me, um, the most severe loneliness I felt was as a mom. After giving birth, besides having like Courtney there to help me, which even then with her, she got to the point where she wasn't taking care of herself, so I had to send her home. you know, so I was like, but it got to a point where like all those people who said, oh, I'll be there and I'm gonna help and all that, no one showed up. No one was there. I mean, besides Kyle, Courtney, and Joya, I had really no one. And it was hard because there would be days where it would just be me and the baby all day until Kyle got home. And then Kyle would have to deal with me just ranting and going off about every sort of thing that was going on in my brain because I had no one to talk to all day. And then
Right.
half the time everyone was at work or doing something else. So I was just I felt so alone and felt like I was going crazy because all I had was a baby and a dog to communicate with.
I get that, and like, yeah, that can feel alone. Like it can feel very lonely. Of like, I have no even that whole like I don't have any other adults to even communicate with at this point. Like,
And then the other side was I really struggled really badly with postpartum depression. And I felt like a lot of the times when I would discuss it with other people or like discuss it with people, they would just kind of try to push it down like it wasn't really that big of a deal and like that I should just be happy I'm a mother and that this is what I wanted and to deal with it. And
it's
that kind of
understandable.
pushed it further too, where it made me not want to even discuss what I was feeling or going through because I didn't want to feel like I was a bad mom because I was feeling that way.
Right. Right. The blaming yourself and like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
That's a tough situation, and like I I I personally did not experience obviously postpartum depression, but like my child's mother did, my children's mother did, and it was very tough. It makes it tougher on everybody else. It makes it tough on that person. You know what I'm saying? So it's a tough thing, and there's a lot of guilt and blaming I think that goes into that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
for me, I think a lot of it has to do with stuff of my PTSD and my complex PTSD, that sort of stuff. Literally, has to do with the fact of
What's
letting. I don't know what's happening. Okay, there we go. Cool.
okay? That
I
was
don't know what was
great.
going on. Sorry about that. That was very confusing. Um, but yeah, no, like I didn't necessarily, you know, what was I even talking about? Oh, the stuff my PTSD and stuff like that, that sort of stuff, where it's like, literally, I because of those things in my past, like I used to be a drug addict. I've been sober for what will be 7 years come November 14th of this year. Um, and but those decisions that I have to live with now, and the consequences of that I had when I was a drug addict, the people I hurt, those sort of things that caused me to get in trouble, all those sort of things. Um, struggle with the fact of like not blaming myself still to this day of like maybe you are a bad person, maybe you did deserve these horrible things to happen to you, and like the facing down of those sort of things is really tough in hindsight because like and it makes me feel very lonely because it feels like, well, maybe I do deserve this, maybe I do deserve to feel lonely, and a lot of that I think has to do with BPD and stuff or whatever, but like that sort of thing, like just adds to the complex nature of complex PTSD and depression and stuff where we're like when you and self value of like feeling like you deserve these horrible things to happen because you were once horrible, and that goes with the stigma of like that we talked about in the first episode about all drug addicts are not bad people. You know what I'm saying? Like most of them are like just people who have made bad choices but are not inherently bad people. So I struggle with that a lot, and that's kind of how it manifests in my life. I struggle a lot with that sort of thing of my past and dealing with that because when I look back, I look at it as watching. It's like watching somebody else's life as a movie, but I'm dealing with the consequences, and it's really tough to even identify with thought patterns from then and all that stuff because of the amount of time I've had. And bless you, and the
Sorry.
things that I've changed in my life. Now to look back, when people ask me questions about it, it's sometimes hard to answer that because I can go, fucking, like I just it's hard. it's very hard. I struggle with it a lot. A lot of people are very reassuring, and you know what I'm saying. I do have people that tell me a lot of good things. You guys help pick me up when I'm feeling very down. So I appreciate that. Now, this is something my therapist brought up to me. Do you think that social media makes people feel more connected or more lonely? Tango,
Not gonna lie, I was not paying attention to the question. What?
do you think social media makes people feel more connected or more lonely?
That's a double-edged sword. They definitely feel more connected to start. Hence, that's actually what I was paying attention to. Ironically, um, but the deeper into the social media rabbit hole you get, you feel loneliness. You start comparing, photos that your friends take, how many likes to comment ratios, like, and people go, oh, I don't do that. Yes, you do. You subconsciously do. You have the need to want to be out there and post. There's some people that are like, I could just lurk. It's not a big deal. I could do social media just to lurk. Good for you. But like 98% of us are on our phones trying to see who's doing what, comparing our lives, seeing how we can get numbers higher, and ultimately it's doing what it was designed to do and tear people apart, not build people together, in my opinion.
And I can see that. Like I totally get that, and I think um I think there's a lot of bad things, but I also think literally I think there's a lot of good things like that. Social media is what led me to find all of you. You know what I'm saying? Which I am thankful for. TikTok is not the best thing in the world, but it did bring me my friend group. So like I can't really be mad at it. So
Shout out TikTok, not a sponsor.
shout out TikTok. Courtney. Oh, we can't hear you, Courtney.
Sorry. Um,
There we
what
go.
was the question?
Do you think social media makes you feel more connected to people or more lonely?
I think it does both. I think that it offers us the ability to stay friends with people that we would never be able to stay friends with otherwise. Like, I moved every year to 2 years my entire childhood. So I have one friend that I've been able to maintain from elementary school. And I've been able to find other friends that I went to elementary school with and stay friends with them due to social media. And so it offers you this wide reach that you wouldn't be able to have without social media. But I think it also offers a lot of loneliness because, like, something my therapist always reminds me is people only post the good things that are happening in their lives. And so people can, I have the tendency to look at other people's lives and go, they're doing so much better than me. They have these degrees, they're married, they have kids, they have all these things that I don't have, and feel alone and like I'm the only one struggling.
Right. That's understandable. And I think even if not people posting good things, like a lot of people that do post the bad things, it's very much either attention seeking or it is, a kind of woe is me pity party that, or the angry comments, that sort of thing. Like there's a lot of negative in that sort of thing of like the both extremes, I think can
Right.
cause the same thing. So I see what you're saying. Um Alyssa,
Can we skip me on this one? I'm so sorry. I'm doing something.
you're fine by all means. Um I think I see the good side in it because I did find you guys, and I have a lot of friends from the previous podcast that I was on and stuff, whatever, that are kind of spread out all over the country, and it kind of has what led me to podcasting was being on that podcast, and it helps me, you know, it's the way I get my art out there. I try to use it for a lot of positive things, but I can see how I do have some ex-wives that are a bit crazy, that sort of thing. So there's a whole downside to it too. But I think a lot of it my therapist brought this up, and she said, like, you necessarily don't like being around a lot of people, and you don't really function well around being a lot of people. Um, do you feel that, like, how do you feel about spending time with people on the podcast and that sort of thing, and talking to people? And it's like, well, actually, I think it's very helpful. It helps me. I feel like I have control in this environment right here, and like I also am able to talk to the people that I want to talk to. Whereas a lot of people that come into my home or I see in public or something are not people that necessarily want to spend a lot of time with. So like it therefore is much easier to have your people and that connection of like finding people you've lost or whatever. So there is, I think there's both upside and downside, but at least for me, it has been much more positive here in the not so distant past than it has been. I mean, it literally, if I didn't have the internet and social media and stuff or whatever, and this podcast and everything through my ankle being broken for the last 9 months, I would not, I'd be in a much better place or much worse place, if at all, here. And I know that's kind of an extreme thing to say, but it is kind of been one of the hardest times in my life, having to deal with this and not being able to get out and go do things and like, go to concerts or go see the people I want to see when I want to see them and that sort of thing, and not being able to stand on my own and take care of myself. So that it's been really rough. So it has been a very good outline, like lifeline for me. What are some healthy ways that you enjoy time alone, though? Because I mean, I think there's inherently healthy ways to do that. What are some of the ways you enjoy healthy time alone? And whatever alone means to you. I mean, it could mean even, you know, being virtually or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it kind of means to you, I think is that. Tango.
I like late at night when everyone's asleep in the house. Because then I can just listen to my music or play video games, do what mom wants to do and get some time to herself. Or if we're all sitting backstage in the studio just hanging out, 9 times out of 10 I'll go on mute and just put my headphones in and listen to music and do whatever on my phone. Like, that's chill with me.
And I think there's a lot of times too where there is times where literally I'm working, Tess is doing something, Alyssa's, doing with the baby, you're, playing games or doing schoolwork or whatever, and like, or and Courtney's here, like, we're all very just quiet, but we're here together. And I think it's, so essentially it is being alone, but it's not being alone.
Yeah.
That's sort of
kind of
like
the study hall.
Yeah, I think it's the option to talk to people. I think like I tell people like I like options. Like I don't necessarily like going outside a bunch, but the fact that I can't really, and like when I couldn't go outside at all, like on my own power, like the fact that was taken away from me was maddening. I don't want to go outside. Like right now, I could go outside. I don't choose to go outside. But when I fucking couldn't go outside because like that wasn't an option, now I'm pissed that that's not an option. Like I'm upset because like wait, like you know what I'm saying, I'm just stuck with this now. Like it's very much a prison when it's very much prison-esque or jail like, you know what I'm saying? Because like all your options are taken away from you. So I can see that. Courtney?
What was the question? Oh, what you like doing alone?
Yeah, healthy ways you enjoy alone time.
I really enjoy taking showers and bubble baths. I also really enjoy playing video games and watching TV. And listening to podcasts is another big one that I do a lot.
Well, shout out podcasts. Like I hope people feel that way about this one for sure. But no, I get it. Alyssa?
Probably watching TV and watching TV. And I tend to go down, like, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing, but it goes down like weird internet rabbit holes. It's fun. And just find the weirdest things to find and look up.
Absolutely. I agree. I think that's good too. Like that, the internet, I think, gets a lot of fucking hate because it can be a shitty, toxic place. But like, I also tell people like it's the greatest resource you fucking have. Like, you can fucking look up and find out anything and fucking it's kind of crazy. Like you think, like I always say, like I fucking would have loved to have been born in like the 1920s, but I couldn't have now because like I fucking so like nerded out tech wise that like I fucking couldn't live without all these modern amenities that I could just pick up and talk to somebody in Connecticut or California or fucking wherever instantaneously, and like I would just have to deal with the people in the shitty town I live in. Like, oh man, I don't like any of these fucking people. That would not work out for me.
Is that the bunny thing?
What is that?
This is another statue. There's a whole bunch of statues here.
That's very cool.
Ooh.
Get some culture
For
in your
the
life.
art walk.
That's dope. That's dope. What beach is that?
Newport Beach.
Newport. Okay.
There's one big bunny over there. You want to go to the big bunny?
There's one
Who's
big bunny in West
that?
Virginia too. Um. Okay. So for me, um, healthy alone time, as a lot of it is doing art, keeping this shit going, turning out designs, doing the stuff I need to do, doing the stuff which I love, which I can't complain. I live a pretty fucking charmed life that I get to make weird art, hang out with you guys, talk to people about shit I really like, and play video games and listen to music and scream into a microphone on my off time. So like I can't complain. A lot of it is my life is a carefully constructed series of things I really love to do. You know what I'm saying? It's just like hang out with people I like, play video games, watch college football, scream into a microphone, do art. That's like fucking rinse and repeat of my day. So like I mean, a lot of times I am alone. So like I've just learned to like that's what helps keep you on the rails is like sometimes I'll look up and I've been doing art for 15 hours and like man, like especially before I met you guys, like a lot of it was that and it was just like, oh, that killed the time. I didn't fucking spiral nothing because I was focused on something that I really love to do. And so that's like my alone time is that's what I've learned has worked for me is like those carefully constructed like figure out a way to make things I really love productive in a manner. You know what I'm saying? So, what's the role of community and friendships? Obviously, as you know, we've talked about ad nauseum about all of our friendships, in preventing loneliness in your life. As you've mentioned before, I guess Tango just previously.
Yeah. How do I rephrase what I already just somehow kind of answered? Oops.
You did, but I mean, I guess I get it. Like, I mean, but it's good. I think even I talk about a lot in my own therapy about this group of people we have, and my therapist sings the praises from the heavens that like I have this group to kind of turn to, and like I'm blessed with a good support system. So like having you guys added to that has been super helpful. So like I know the feeling of like having somewhere to turn and finding your people. So, Courtney, I'm sure it's probably a similar answer, but
Having community and friend network has really helped with loneliness because it allows me to call people or just go over to Alyssa's whenever, um, so that I don't have to be alone if I don't want to.
that's awesome, and that's good. I think it's having a community and finding your people. Like I know people talk about that all the times, and the whole "it takes a village" thing, but fucking sometimes it does. And if you find the right village, like I think there's very much like the village that's gonna be like, she's a witch, burn her, and we saw how that worked out in the 1600s. And then there's fucking finding your community like this, where it's like, fucking, she's a witch, she's our friend, that sort of thing. Like,
Yeah. The
so
accuracy.
yeah, right. I figured that was very poignant. Alyssa,
Oh.
what's that?
Sorry. So what was the question again?
The role of community and friendships in preventing loneliness.
Well, there's a lot to do with that. I mean, that's how both good and bad things come about because I mean that's how we get activism, but that's also how we get gangs. So it really just comes to like making sure that when you are finding these communities and you are finding people that you're not forgetting yourself because you can't give wholeheartedly to the community. You have to give some to yourself too.
I agree, and I agree to that too. Yeah, and a lot of I've spoken a lot with all of you guys about the importance of all of you guys and how much you help me and you help this company and everything, and I'm super thankful for it. But like even before any of you appeared on any podcast, like you guys were still very important to me, and we're very helpful in just knowing you guys and being able to talk to you guys. And you guys have all stepped up since then, and it's been great. I'm happy to have you all. Um, so what? Let's see. How do you personally recharge, alone or with people? Tango?
People. I'm always up everybody's butt in this group, especially you and Tess.
Maybe I'm into butt stuff. You don't know that. I'm just kidding. I'm
Oh,
joking.
hey,
I'm
now we
sorry.
don't
I'm
mention
sorry. I'm sorry.
anyway.
That was inappropriate for this podcast. I apologize. I'm sorry. I just fucking sometimes they
Isn't
get away
that
from me.
how we lighten the mood? Is inappropriate humor?
It is at the worst times. That's the fucking that's my whole thing. So yeah, no, but no. I think especially you've never been a burden any and
I
ever. So like
appreciate that.
you guys, you specifically like have gone above me on the Call of Duty, and I thank you very much. You're a blessing, and I'm always here to help and answer and send you weird messages on your watch, which you tolerate. Listen, if you want to talk about being burdened, just fielding weird questions from me with a fucking walkie-talkie watch is
I love it, especially if I'm at work and it happens.
doing God's work out there. I promise you. Courtney,
Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
how do you personally recharge alone? How do you charge alone time or with people?
Oh, alone time. I love people, but people drain my battery faster than I can recharge it. And so spending time alone really gives me the chance to recharge.
Okay. I see that. I see that. Like that's a good side. That's two sides of either fence. You know what I'm saying, or whatever.
Mhm.
Both sides of the fence. There, kind of. You know what I'm saying. Like,
Same coin, different sides.
yep, something like that. Something like that. Um, Alyssa, how do you recharge? Alone or with people?
with people. But that's again, like, it's not necessarily the good thing. It's sometimes good, but sometimes bad. But I also like to take super long showers when I really need to be alone.
Well, that's the second really long showers or bath thing we've gotten, which is fucking. Shout out to you guys. Fucking. I remember back in the day when fucking standing in the shower was not an arduous fucking task. It's kind of a whole thing for me now. Um, I kind of use both. I do take my alone time, but I consider alone time still when I'm like with if I'm just hanging out with all of you, like it is technically alone time, but like none of us are talking or whatever. Like I'm still here with people. I still feel connected. Like the fact that I can just look up and know you guys are there if you're not saying anything, I think is that reassurance. That level of reassurance is something I need. And like I I can recharge with people. It's got to be the people I know and love and want to be around. Like otherwise, people are fucking draining. So, um, what do you think? I think, and we probably covered this kind of. Um, can loneliness teach us something valuable about ourselves?
I think Courtney answered that best earlier.
Yeah, I think we kind of covered that with the whole like facing down your
Yeah.
own problems and stuff or whatever. So we can we'll move on kind of to PTSD, complex PTSD, and depression. What is, and actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up the actual definition. But what to you is, well, let's just do the definition. What's the difference between PTSD and complex PTSD?
Complex PTSD is a series of traumatic events, and PTSD is from one traumatic event.
Okay. Yep. And that's what it says. Typically caused by one single intense traumatic event, or CPTSD is caused by prolonged or repeated exposure to traumatic events over often during childhood or early childhood. Um, Both of them involve re-experiencing, which is intrusive memories, flashbacks, nightmares. Avoidance, which is avoiding reminders of the trauma, emotional numbing. Um, Hyperarousal, increased vigilance, irritability, or difficult concentrating. I'm the most hypervigilant person you'll ever meet. Um, in addition, to the core PTSD symptoms, CPTSD is characterized by emotional dysregulation, which is essentially what happens with BPD, difficult controlling your emotions, intense anger, shame, or guilt, negative self concept, a distorted sense of self worth, feelings, hopelessness, or worthlessness, and interpersonal difficulties, problems with trust, intimacy, and relationships, which a lot of all of that is most people with BPD and have complex PTSD, like those symptoms very much overlap. um there It says the treatment, both CPTSD and PTSD can effectively be treated with therapy such as a CBT therapy or medication. Treatment typically focuses on processing the traumatic event, developing coping mechanisms, improving emotional regulation, and enhancing self-esteem and interpersonal skills, which I think is kind of the basis for all mental health disorders. That sort of stuff. And I think a lot of that stuff, all of that kind of overlaps. I think a lot of it, I tell people a lot with complex PTSD, is the fact that you haven't dealt with your PTSD and it now has integrated into other mental health disorders. You know what I'm saying? I think you can start out with just PTSD and it slowly becomes anxiety and it becomes
That's
depression, it
where, yeah,
becomes
where I
BPD,
started.
and that's, and it can start from one single thing. And if you don't deal with it, I always equate it to people to balancing your emotional books, where if you, okay, I have a negative and like you have too much shit going out and not enough stuff coming in, like all of a sudden your books become imbalanced. And
Hmm.
that imbalance manifests as mental health disorders. And so like that sort of like emotion, therapy and whatnot, like medication is the way to allow you to go, okay, I need to balance my books, and gives you the ability to like face down those things and make the books, instead of the book being the entire ledger, it's one page at a time. Okay, we're doing one page at a time. Therapy is literally taking each one of those negative things and going, okay, how can we make this? How can we bring money back in? How can we get this off the books? How can we get this negative off the books? This outstanding debt off the books, and that sort of thing. And that's, and usually makes a lot more sense to people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of how it breaks down for me and how I try to explain to people in terms that people understand, because the differences are very subtle, and overlap with a lot of other mental health disorders. And I think most people that have serious mental health disorders like BPD, bipolar, that sort of thing, anxiety, all at least have PTSD, if not complex PTSD. In my experience, and like the same with most addicts or dual diagnosis. I
Yeah.
think even if addiction usually can be that trauma that you experience, and that sort of thing becomes, and goes on from there. So how does trauma affect your daily routines and relationships, Tango?
There's a lot. That's a lot to unpack.
It is
Um,
deep question.
some days aren't as bad as others. But on the really bad days, it's almost crippling. Uh, very hyper vigilant on those days. Like, can hear the soda in the can kind of situation, or like the batteries in the remote. As stupid as that sounds.
No, listen, I get it.
Um, you don't want to get out of bed because it's kind of scary, and you don't know what else you're gonna run it. The paranoia, the catastrophizing. It got so bad at one point where I literally quit a job that I could handle, but the trauma associated with the kind of work I was doing, I quit. I just couldn't
Okay.
do it. And I'm now finally getting a job almost 8 months later in something completely different to just eliminate that as a worry. And I still wake up the days I have to go to work with like that pit in my stomach.
Right. And I think a lot of it is affected by that, and that's sort of like not wanting to, like, even when people are checking on you, even wanting to pick up your phone and look and go, God, like, uh, you know, like you don't have hundreds of text messages, you probably have 10 or something. You know what I'm saying? But it's like one of those things. Like I don't even necessarily want to do that. But I think a good routine that people, at least for me, is helped getting to is like, listen, I need to at least pick it up and at least delegate to myself which ones need to be answered, which ones don't need to be answered. Sometimes
Yeah.
not all text messages need to be answered, but the people who are concerned about you, your friends, your family, those sort of things, answer those people. Make sure to tell them you're alive. You're maybe not doing well, whatever, but like opening that door, I think is a good part of it. But I understand. where you're coming from. Courtney?
Trauma affects me in a lot of ways. I have chronic nightmares that make sleeping difficult and scary. And I have this overwhelming phobia that people are upset with me, they don't like me, they are mad at me, and a deep rooted fear in having to be in any social setting that's caused me to not be able to work, and to isolate from my friends and family because it's easier to be alone than to worry that I'm disappointing people.
I get that, and that is tough. Like, I think a lot of like when I was struggling with stuff, and I still struggle with stuff, is like a big point I went through of like knowing that like I need to try harder and like work on my mental health was like I don't want to have to look in my mother's eyes and see disappointment or see her hurt again because of something I did, like with my drug addiction or whatever, or my grandmother's eyes, or my daughter's eyes, or my friend's eyes, even like that sort of thing. Of like, I can't look in their eyes anymore and see I caused that problem anymore, and that sort of thing was like a big realization of like I got to work on myself at that point. So like I get it, like I think all that sort of stuff is it's rough, and it affects. I think trauma affects just about everything we do, and it affects the people that we become and the internal monologue we have. It affects, I think, everything in our life. And if you don't deal with that sort of stuff, it will continue to do that. And it's one of those things. Just like a drug addict, like I tell people, like your problems will never go away. Like they may solve themselves, but it's probably not going to be a way that you like it. But like they'll never go away. Like even if it does resolve itself, like then you have to deal with the consequences that you don't like. You know what I'm saying? That
Right.
sort of thing. And like, I ran from the cops or whatever, and like now I now I have to deal with the fact that like, okay, that problem's resolved, but it's not the way I want to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Like that sort of thing, like that sort of stuff. So like I get it, and it's the same way for me. I had struggled when I was a kid with night terrors, and it has affected the fact that I was able to lucid dream now and stuff, whatever. But like even dealing with that, like it still gets away from me sometimes, and like that sort of stuff. Like there's always like even if there's a solution, there's always kind of more work to be done. I think in a lot of that. What do you think are some of the myths about PTSD and depression that need to be busted? Like we've tackled this on every show we've been on, like the stigmas, the myths, the sort of like what do we fucking want people to stop thinking about stuff that we know personally is not true?
The main one that I remember growing up as a kid and not having really any understanding at that age what any of like mental health was. It was like a virus. Like, hey, just so you know they're crazy, it makes them like insane. It's not the case. They're just kind of sensitive to certain things and have triggers that some people won't ever understand, and that's okay. Like, that's their thing to deal with. And that depression is an uphill battle always. So is the other two, but it's all of it is a constant thing that that person has to work on every day for the rest of their life, and it's manageable, but it doesn't make them crazy.
Right.
That's like the biggest stigma in general with mental health anyway.
Right. I agree. Courtney?
I think a big thing is just because you've experienced trauma or a lot of trauma doesn't mean that you're sentenced to always experience trauma. I think that's a really important thing for people to know that have PTSD or CPTSD is that you can have a life that is free of trauma and be loved and respected and valued and treated the way that you deserve to be treated.
I agree. I think it. I hear people all the time like, "Well, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop," and I remind them like, the other shoe doesn't have to drop. There doesn't always have to be another shoe that drops. Like things can just be good. Things can be great, and there doesn't have to be a downside to it. A lot of waiting for the other shoe to drop stuff is kind of like is a BPD thing too. Of like, well, if there's an upside, there's got to be a fucking equally worse downside. You know what I'm saying? And that sometimes there doesn't have to be. Sometimes there's just good things that happen and sometimes there's just bad things that happen and like that catastrophizing and all that other stuff like which I we're going to do in the future a thing on cognitive distortions which is part of that and like that sort of thing of falling into those traps of like you know it always has to be this way the very black and white thinking of like if you have mental illness like there's no help. The same thing I was told about BPD when I first heard it, like there's just no help, and it's just not true. And you know what I'm saying? Like I think that whole thing is it's a good thing to break up. Yeah, I think um the one that I think of is like the fact that um I just had it, I lost it. The like essentially like yeah, if you are something, I guess you always have to be that sort of thing, or that like being okay. Like, you always have to be okay. The whole masking and like pushing stuff down, like from former generations and stuff, like your emotions make you weak, that sort of thing. Like that whole stuff, I think has to go. Or that you're a burden. I think that's the big one of like, oh, people don't want to hear my problems. I've had people say that to me, like, oh, my mental health person doesn't want to hear the crazy shit that comes in my head. Like that's actually their job. Their only job is to hear the crazy shit in your head. You know what I'm saying? Like that's their only job is to hear all those things you think that like you feel like might be wrong or like make you feel bad. Like that's the stuff they want to hear. They don't want to hear like you felt like it's good if you tell them like I felt like I made a good dinner. But like what they want to hear is the fact like I made a good dinner, but now I feel like I also feel like a failure to my kids or what you know what I'm saying, whatever additional thing you want to add to it, like that sort of thing. Like their job is to manage those crazy thoughts and help you essentially eliminate those sort of things. So like I think that's a big one. I always hear that like, oh, I just don't want to be a burden. Like don't stuff those feelings down. Like let them out. Like I've somebody just the other day I said, when is talking about something actually been worse than not talking about it? Almost never. Like literally almost never. Like because even talking about it, even if it makes things like worse initially, like a lot of people will respect you for being truthful or being honest or coming to them in those situations, no matter how hard those situations are. And inherently, it's gonna be better for you, and it's probably gonna be better for the other person involved. So like, it's very much a in my head logically, it's a numbers game where it's like, you know what, if being truthful works out 87% of the time, then like the 13% that doesn't, okay, it happens, but like I'm gonna go with the numbers that like you should do that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to be better this many times because there's always exceptions, and those exceptions are less often than you want to think. But those are what people usually remember. So I think
Mhm.
thinking that you're a burden is a lot of it has to do with other mental health disorders where you lose your self worth and self value. So um okay, so how do you to you how do your triggers work and how what can people do when they experience one? Like what's something that works for you? Then when you feel triggered or you see a trigger coming or anything like that, what is something that somebody can do? Because like a lot of people don't know what happens when they get triggered, or like they just know they're triggered and they don't know why or whatever. Like what helps you recognize your triggers and those sort of things.
Um, so I usually get a physical reaction to most triggers. Depending on the severity, it could feel like I'm going into a heart attack, or it could feel like I'm just gonna throw up. Like basic. The best thing I can do is to notice the patterns and try to catch it and do some kind of DBT exercise or a grounding exercise, like with the five senses. As
Right.
stupid as it sounds when you first start doing these things in therapy, truthfully, the more you do them, you do notice that they do something. It may not get rid of it, but it does help. There's also the thing where you can just go bite a lemon and shock yourself and be like, oh crap, I'm in reality. that does help. Again, really stupid, but I didn't write the book, so
that's true. You're just here delivering information. No, I get that, and like I think a lot of that is like just the processing of your emotions. I think is one step, but the next step is to recognize your emotions and recognize what causes them,
yep.
and that I think is a big part to help ease all the processing and the not being able to process and that sort of thing. It all kind of goes hand in hand. So like the recognizing of those sort of things and seeing a trigger coming or knowing just like, okay, like sometimes like for a long time, because I was a heroin addict, because I shot up, like seeing like things in like Pulp Fiction where John Travolta shoots up and they show the needle. Fucking I close my eyes every time for a long time on that. Right. And like I love that movie. I love a lot of movies, that deal with drug use. And like a lot of times it was just like and just knowing when it was over. But I slowly was able to kind of be like, okay, all right, I watched 1 second. Okay, fucking look away. And kind of that like slow immersion therapy of like, okay, I know it's coming. Here's how we deal with it, and kind of ease my way into it. So it was like, okay, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Okay, I can deal with this kind of slowly. But I think,
Yep.
if you don't recognize that and just being triggered, like that sort of visceral reaction that most people get, I think is very common. So, Courtney, I agree. Oh,
Something that helps me when I get triggered is pausing, being mindful, um, and doing DBT skills.
which we've talked a lot about DBT, which I
Yeah.
think we're going to cover in a later episode. And I think I was just talking to my therapist about that, like, or because she asked me about questions about BPD when I was going over the last episode with her, and I said the 1 second that you get just from being mindful, that pause of like 1 second of being like, wait, am I fucking about to overreact? That sort of one microsecond of a pause will give you enough time to be like, okay, and like sometimes shit flies out of my mouth faster than I can fucking catch it. But I've gotten much better at it, and whether it's been from being on the podcast or just being around people, or just like not wanting to be as abrasive, that sort of thing. Like that sort of thing, like I think gives me that moment of like that what you were saying, being mindful and being in the moment, and like not just waiting for your turn to talk or whatever. Like because a lot of like once you get triggered, it is waiting for your turn to talk. Like, oh, I'm just about to lay into this person. Or if you actually listen to what they say, a lot of what you have take issue with might get answered or might get fucking moved away because they're about to explain something, but you're not listening enough to even hear the explanation. You just heard the triggering, and now you're triggered. You know what I'm saying? It's where angry comments come from on the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody watches 4 minutes of an hour-long video, and 4 minutes in, they're like, "Oh, this motherfucker!" I swear, and just are angry typing 4 minutes in. And if they'd made it to minute 15, they'd have been like, "Delete, delete, 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 delete," like that sort of thing. So it's like I think that being mindful is very big, and I think the DBT skills thing is going to be. I just got the DBT skills, the DBT or the borderline personality workbook. I know Tango has done it. I'm sure Courtney has probably done it in her mental health classes and stuff or whatever. So like, I think DBT is a wonderful thing, and I think it helps me. Sometimes I also get triggered. As you guys have heard, I fucking sometimes will just say shit and I tell people I can't shut up long enough and not tell you what I think. So like I try to do it with people that will like, especially if I get really upset about a situation, I literally will like tell people like, listen, I'm gonna tell you exactly what's going on. Here's what's going on. Am I being irrational? And that's like a reasonable thing because like I need to know. Like if I'm being irrational, please tell me. And that sort of thing is how I try to deal with it. Um, I think you mentioned grounding techniques, Tango. What sort of grounding techniques do you do? What does that play in your symptoms?
So there's the five senses, like the five things you can feel, four things you can hear, three see, two smell, one taste, and you can mix them if you really wanted to. It kind of just pulls me back into the present. It's the same thing with the lemon. You bite the lemon and it's just a shock to your mouth, and you're like, "Whoa, okay, I'm here, and I just bit that lemon."
Right.
It's like the lemon's a hard stop. That's like a hard reset if you needed it. But the senses thing is like, all right, I feel that panic, I feel that dread, I feel something's gonna happen, that spiral's coming, and before I go down that drain, I'd rather ride that wave and go ahead and do my grounding techniques instead.
Right. I agree. Courtney,
What was the question?
what role do grounding techniques play in managing your symptoms and stuff of like depression and complex PTSD and CPTSD and your other mental health issues?
Grounding really helps me to see the bigger picture and not just get lost in my trauma and my symptoms due to my trauma. It helps me just to be able to see what is reality and what is just emotions.
What do you have like a favorite mental or favorite grounding technique?
Holding ice.
Oh,
It
okay. That's kind
it'll
of the
shock.
biting the lemon.
Yeah, it shocks your system, and it kind of makes your body slow down, and it makes it easier to think things through.
Okay. Yeah, and I think grounding I think can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. A lot of people like touching grass, that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole actual like grounding to the earth type of thing. There's a lot of different ways you can do, and I think a lot of mine is letting that emotion out, and then but also like the sounding board of like having people tell me like, am I being irrational or not? You know what I'm saying? And then the sort of like I always joke about people with like sometimes they're in crisis, like just to be kind of funny, but like to be serious too, to tell people like I called, the sky is falling, not counseled, the sky's not falling. We just checked. It's okay. Everything's fine. Because like I can get that way. I get full chicken little about the dumbest shit sometimes. And like having somebody go, hey, the sky's not falling, and then somebody you trust or something like is very helpful. And it seems silly, but it's one of those things of like, okay, that reassurance is very reassuring. That little reassurance of like, okay, maybe the sky isn't falling. Shit. So that's what kind of works for me. That like those sort of little reassurances, I think, help kind of bring me back to reality. Or like with me, it's like speak very directly. Like there's no, not like a child, but like speak very, very. This is what it is, point blank. That sort of thing really does help kind of fucking get me back on the rails.
Yep.
So, how does depression and trauma overlap? How are they different? Like, do they mean kind of the same thing to you? Like, how are they different? How are they the same?
The trauma makes me depressed. Shouldn't laugh about it, but it does. Like, part of it for me is more so, and we talk about this in therapy a lot with like your inner child, that who you are now is who little you needed. So like looking at my situation, or whenever I get in that headspace where I'm going down memory lane, I'm like, I wish I had somebody to be like, dude, shove off, or whatever I needed at the time.
Right.
And
And
it's like, damn it.
those are a lot of the things we like when we needed us now for those moments. Is a lot of the things that we end up romanticizing, like with BPD and stuff, where we're like,
Mm-hmm.
we romanticize old relationships that were toxic because like like you only would remember the good parts. And like, what is it, Inside Out? Is that the movie with Joy and the feelings?
Yes.
Like, listen, when I saw that like it's a very cute movie, but like when I saw that movie, I was like, damn, that might be the best like amalgamation of like how to fucking talk to even a child about mental health ever. Like that movie is fucking spot on of like what it's like to work at Tony Corp. Like for real. That's what goes on at Tony
I
Corp.
don't know if Courtney's human services class have used the movie as reference yet, but mine has. Like 2 of my human service classes have, about how to recognize what environments certain people will feel from different triggers or trauma, or just that whole line of thinking even. And we had to do a report on it. It was very interesting how we broke it down and dissected each thing, because I think that also has helped me with my journey, had to have a better understanding. Like, therapist needs therapist, but I started early and have a therapist. But now I
Most
need to
therapists
be
have a therapist.
So
Most of the best therapists I think have therapists. Like
as they should.
absolutely. Courtney,
Um, what was the question? Sorry.
Does depression and trauma like overlap? And I use like Inside Out
Oh,
as kind of a
yeah.
point.
Trauma causes a lot of depression, and I think some depression symptoms can be related to trauma. But I would say that trauma and depression are separate entities. They just work together.
I agree. I agree. And I think a lot of even depression symptoms can like being irritable or whatever, like having a bad day, like those depression symptoms, like I just don't want to talk to anybody and blowing people off can cause more trauma because then you inherently damage relationships, you damage, you know what I'm saying, other things in your life that did not necessarily need damaging, that could have been positive things, like somebody just reaching out to you and then they feel like, oh, you ignored them or whatever. And like they could be understanding even after the fact, but like the fact of like blowing them off does do damage to that sort of thing. So the depression does inherently cause some sort of trauma to your relationships and stuff. Um, what are small things, like what is something small that just on a really fucking tough day can help you out? Don't everybody answer at once. I'll go first.
Yeah, sure.
Reassurance is mine. Like I tell people, like the two best ways to deal with me is reassurance and talk to me directly when you feel like I'm not quite there. Like when I'm telling you the sky is falling, directly tell me it's not. You know what I'm saying? Like that sort of thing. Those two things, I think, like it's and like I tell people, like it's not big things. I don't need giant grand gestures and things like. I just need little small reassurances, like and like especially like done. They're even more meaningful if they're done without like me having to be like, hey, just tell me the sky's not falling. That sort of thing. Like inherently, if you know me and like you do those sort of things, like I will cherish them a lot because they are so helpful to me.
I like validation. Validation's nice and it's simple. It's kind of goes along with the reassurance thing that you were talking about. Sometimes even the smallest thing is sitting in a room or again backstage with one person at minimum in silence. Just a body double. Sometimes I don't even want to talk. Sometimes I just need somebody to sit there with me. So my brain goes, well, at least they like being around me. So it's not me. 9 times out of 10, what I feed to my own head is not me.
Yeah, I would say that. So, Courtney,
Um, some small things that really help me. Spending time with my cat is a big one. Um, he really grounds me, and I don't know, spending time with animals just always makes me see things in a different way than I don't normally do, and I think that can be important sometimes. Um, and another small thing is dialectical statements. Yes, I'm having a hard time, but it's not going to be forever. Reminding myself that, yes, this is the way that it is right now, but it's not always going to be this way, or it's not the end of the world.
I agree. I agree. Um, let's see. We've kind of covered how friends and family can support somebody in PTSD or depression without overstepping. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a very, and we all kind of have that. Luckily enough, we have a support system, but like I offered at the beginning of the show, with anybody who doesn't have a support system, like we're all very available, and like we all obviously have mental health issues, but like the fact that like knowing that there's somebody, even if it's some random person on the internet, like we all just started out as people on the internet to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like I just started out as a weird guy on the internet, and here we are, friends. You guys are really doing God's work. So, that sort of thing. I think we've kind of covered that. Like there's very healthy ways to go about doing that. Um, is okay to you, obviously, like obviously healing, you feel like healing's like a straight path? You feel like there's just a path to recovery, you know what I'm saying? Or is it kind of ups and downs?
There's no direct path. You're gonna take 5 steps forward, 15 back. You're gonna take another 7 steps to the left, maybe 3 to the right, go back 2 spaces, go on a roller coaster, play Chutes and Ladders, and get somewhere, and then take a car backwards again. It's never a linear path for healing.
I agree. I think a lot of what I think too is like, I think there is a direct path to uh, a direct path of things that work to heal, but I think everybody's journey is kind of ups and downs, and that sort of like you explained, and like I'm a big proponent of like having the proper doctors, proper medication if you need it, taking your medication, therapy, working on your own. All those sort of things are a direct path that then you will have to, on your own journey, take the ups and downs of getting there. So, Courtney?
Something I remind myself daily is that healing is not linear. I think it's important to recognize because sometimes when you're down, you forget that you're going to be back up again.
Mhm.
And remembering that you will go back up again and that healing is not linear, and just because you're down doesn't mean that you're, if that makes sense.
No, listen.
Um,
If you watch the movie Blow, fucking, which is crazy to think because all the addiction stuff we've done, but if you watch the movie Blow, at the beginning of the movie, fucking Johnny Depp's character as a kid is told by his dad that literally when you're up, you never think you'll be down again, and when you're down, you'll never think you'll be up again. And it's that sort of black and white type of thinking that like leads us to think that like it is all kind of cyclical, like literally it's all going to come back around. Like fucking, there's bad days, but like eventually, I always tell people like not everything can go wrong. Shit does go wrong. A lot of shit can go wrong, but not everything can go wrong every day. Like that's an impossibility. So like you have to know that like there will be good times, there will be bad times. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that sort of thing of like no matter how bad it is now, like unless I tell people the one thing I tell people is that all of this only ends once. Everything that happens before that is just progress. Because that's it. Like if you're still breathing, there's still a chance to go forward. No matter how many steps you went back, there's still a chance to go forward.
Yep.
So, how important is self comparison to recovery from trauma and depression? I think this goes back to the self worth thing, but like,
Yeah. It also kind of goes back to the social media thing a little bit too.
yeah,
I definitely feel it serves more as a detriment for comparison. Like everyone is their own person. We could say we're snowflakes, I guess, because no two of us are alike kind of situation. The way I respond to certain traumas is not going to be the same way you or Courtney respond, and likewise to anyone else watching the video or whatever. Comparison is bad. It's not good.
okay, Courtney.
I think that self-comparison can be good if you're reminding yourself, like 3 years ago, I was not anywhere remotely close to who I am today.
Do you want her down?
Right. No, I agree. I literally, I believe I just told Alyssa earlier today, like everybody has this thing of like you should be financially stable by the time you're 30, and I'm sure there are people that are financially stable by they're 30, but like I literally just became like sane and stable in my 40s, and I'm still struggling. So you know what I'm saying? That sort of like thing of like having that comparison, I think can be bad, but I think also used correctly, I think it can be good because it can be motivation. It can be I am better. I am, despite all of my faults and everything I've been through and everything, I am the best person I've ever been today, and it's because of the work I have done. So to remember that, and to remember, like, I'm not addicted to heroin. I'm not addicted to drugs. I'm not in fucking jail. I'm that sort of thing where, like, I am available, and I'm trying to help people, and I'm trying to help myself. I think helping yourself is a big part of everything. Um, So this is the end of the show. I think I will probably start doing things like this at the end of the show. It's kind of critical thinking questions. Um, you know, where we have. So the first one here is how can you tell the difference between a coping strategy that's healthy, like solitude, um, and one that's harmful, like isolation?
Still learning that. Again, it goes with patterns. I know when it's isolation, when it's at the spiral. I don't want anyone to deal with it. It goes back to the burden mindset. This is my problem, not theirs. Yeah, I have a village, but this isn't for them. They have their own thing to deal with. But when it's just taking that time, it's more of my rational mindset. So they in therapy, it's called monkey mind. We talk about it with my therapist a lot. Your rational brain will take over, and in most cases, that's when all of your senses kick in on overdrive, overstimulated, whatever it is, and you just need to be away, but in such a way that it's you close yourself up in a box. You are playing hide and seek, and you refuse to come out. Is what it ends up being.
Right.
So
I agree.
that's the differences for me anyway.
I agree. I think a lot of it too is that whole recognizing in yourself, like, okay, I just need a moment to actually clear my head, or am I like that moment can turn into like I just need a couple days. Like what is reasonable and unreasonable in the whole, like, am I avoiding or am I just taking a moment so that I'm not freaking out? That sort of thing. So, Courtney?
Asking myself, how does this make me feel is a big one. Um, I think recognizing when I'm isolating and I don't feel good about it versus when I'm choosing to be alone and it feels like I'm growing and it's healthy. And I think also asking myself, why am I choosing to be alone right now? And recognizing, like, is it because I want to do more for myself and grow and be better, or is it because I'm scared of everybody and I don't want to upset anybody?
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Um, Kind of covered what ways society might contribute to feelings of loneliness, trauma, and depression. Um, what? Okay, we've kind of covered what ways might society contribute to feelings of loneliness, trauma, and depression, essentially with stigmas and sort of things, social media, that sort of thing. But what responsibility does it have in addressing them? I think is an important part.
Look at me. Can't come up with an answer for that one right now.
I didn't hear the whole question.
Well,
What is what affecting?
So, okay, we've talked about what ways society contributes to feelings of loneliness, trauma, and depression.
Uh-huh.
But what responsibility does it have in addressing them?
I think we see a lot in like mental health industry of society coming together to help individuals to be better, as well as like in a lot of human services professions. I think we see society coming together to help people get better and be able to be independent.
I agree. I think a big part of like getting better mental health care and doctors, I think all around is should be a very big point. And I'm glad that mental health has, just from the time I was a teenager or was 20 something to now, has taken a large jump. And you know what I'm saying? Like to see people even your guys' age to be getting help now as opposed to when I got it in my mid 30s is a vast difference. To have those skills earlier is always better. And I think society in general has a responsibility to address that and kind of feed into that where I think more people who take mental health seriously and don't stigmatize it and mental health professionals that take their job seriously and are more empathetic and caring, I think would be great. So now we've talked about can it lead to personal growth and empathy. Um do you think do cultural attitudes towards mental health shape the way people cope or talk about PTSD, complex PTSD, and depression?
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Okay. Okay. Courtney, that's very
Yes,
succinct.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I was
Cool.
just talking about in my human services class last week about how LAPD has to have Vietnamese specific crime specialists because of suicides and how their culture is very suicides taboo. It's very hush hush. You don't want people to get written down as someone that committed suicide. And there was a case where they messed with evidence to make it look like it was a homicide so that they didn't get suicide written down as their cause of death. And it
Wow.
created a wild goose chase for the LAPD.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Um, no, I mean I get it, and it's even between men and women, whether it's men shouldn't men get misdiagnosed about certain things, women get misdiagnosed about certain things, and it has a lot to do sometimes with their culture, sometimes just with the fact like oh men should be strong and they shouldn't cry or they should push down their emotions or women exhibit this because and it's just this sort of thing or you know what I'm saying whatever those sort of things I think play a lot into it. Um, this is the last one, and I think we've covered this, but like I think it's a good ending one. What role does community play in healing, and is it possible to fully recover without support from others?
I think it is possible. I also think it's probably a lot harder for the vast majority. Um, Community wise, with help, there's always policy changes going in with local communities to make things more accessible. They have free therapy or free rec centers. They have all these other things to help individuals, and not even just for BPD and CPTSD, PTSD, all of that, like domestic violence, all those other things. There's always opportunities for the community to like reach out and help.
I agree. I agree. Courtney?
I think that community plays an essential part of healing. I think that it helps you learn how to interact with others in a healthy way, as well as what behaviors you're willing to allow and how to set boundaries. As well as I think the community plays a huge part in helping you get mental health help. And I think that with therapy and sometimes medication, you have a way better chance of getting to where you want to be than if you try to do it alone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think even whether it's your town, whether it's your family, whatever your community is, I think I think that's kind of a same as your support system. I think to me, like I don't think you can fully recover without some sort of support from somebody. Even if it's your only support system is your mental health professional, I think you need to have at least some place to turn when that. And like, I think the basis of all of this, I think the biggest thing I tell people is like the biggest piece of information ever passed down in human history the first thing ever written that we can find back in Sumerian tablets and all kinds of stuff, the one piece of information that has been consistent is know thyself. And I think knowing yourself will help you know others. Because I tell people, like, in 100 plus thousand years of human history, or whatever you believe, we've discovered no new emotions, but we have discovered new ways to understand them. And if you can understand them inside yourself, it can help you deal with other people. And I think whether your community is part of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think the knowing loneliness and being alone will help you deal with those sort of things. And in dealing with that sort of thing, I think you can kind of, the more you can deal with yourself, the more you can deal with other people, and it kind of grows from there. Because if you can't deal with yourself and you can't deal with your own emotions, there's no other way you can deal with other people's emotions and other people's situations. And I think is very important. And I think that, I think being lonely is inherently part of the human condition. It's that hole that we all have that kind of is just there, and you try to fill it with all the wrong things till you find the one thing to fill it with. But I think knowing yourself will help you weed out a lot of the bad things, whether it's heroin or fucking anything, toxic relationships, whatever it is. Like that sort of thing of knowing yourself will help you not put horrible things in that hole that will never be filled if you fill it with the wrong things. And so I think at the end of all this, I think that's kind of the way to put it. And I think overall finding those people that, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, you know what I'm saying, finding that support system, you know, and having that sort of thing, whether it's through your state, through your town, through your family, through one person, through one friend, finding that sort of thing, I think is what leads to recovery. I don't think I don't know anybody or any case where somebody just dealt with mental health on their own and just figured it out. Because that's the sort of thing that, like, from my father's generation and before him, is the type of thing where men were taught to push down their feelings, and literally, like, in pushing down their feelings, it causes people to have fucking heart attacks at fucking 45. You know what I'm saying? That sort of thing of just pushing down those feelings and stress. Tango's laptop died, she said. So we'll wait for her to come back. But Courtney, do you have any other final thoughts?
Um, not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, um, let's see if she's coming back real quick. But yeah, I think what I just said, I think, is the basis behind all of it. I think that would help with a lot of people's mental health in general, is knowing yourself. I think that's where you have to start. You know what I'm saying? I tell people all the
Yeah,
time, you can be deceptive, but being self-deceptive is where the problem really starts. And so, like, if you can be
yeah.
truthful to yourself and understand yourself, I think all in all, she's coming back. But I think overall, I think that's in general where it comes down to. Um, so yeah, I think that's the end. We'll wait for her to come back, catch her final words. I can say that we do have Kirsten Coping shirts now that have this logo on the back. Has the show logo on the back. Um, and they're available. You can email us or contact us on any of the socials. Any color, up to 5X in size. Do hoodies, anything you want it on, we can kind of do it on. And that goes for all the shows, but this one specifically. And yeah, I think a big part of just having the ability. A lot of these things all have bad things. They all have good things. The internet, you know, all that sort of stuff. Social media all have inherently bad things, but I think they have all inherently good things too. It's all how you use them and your perspective on the sort of thing. And I think knowing yourself will kind of you know, I can lead you to kind of down a path that's maybe a little less stressful and a little less painful, and giving yourself the time, whether it's being mindful with DBT and that sort of thing. I think seeking out any type of thing, like I said, I'm a big proponent of therapy and medication if needed from the proper medical professionals, and sort of like even seeking out things like DBT, whether you have BP or whatever, like, or CBT, whatever form of therapy I think works. Doing that little extra work for yourself, because I think mental health mental health people, I think a lot of people have the stigma of that is a pill is going to fix it all, or talking to a therapist a couple times is going to fix it all. That sort of thing. I think it's a long kind of game, and it's a thing that like takes a lot of work. It's inherently hard. A lot of people are mentally ill because they don't want to do the work, and that the sort of adage of like um anything worth doing is hard. That sort of thing. Like I had a fucking what is the quote? That all of our dreams lie just on the other side of difficult. That's kind of what it is. That sort of thing of like literally like you can have everything you want, but most anything that you dream of is not easy. You know what I'm saying? Like most people's dreams are big, and whether that is, owning your own business or whatever, I think mental health falls in that category of like I want to be better. I want to be mentally well, and I want to, that sort of thing. In doing that, I think you can kind of you know, if you know it's going to be difficult and takes work, but knowing that if you put in the work, it is rewarding and it's not an instant fix, that sort of thing. So, Tango is coming back in now. Oh, nope. There she is. Hi. We were just closing it up saying all the stuff I just said before. But any final thoughts you have to add, Miss soon to be mental health professional?
Did we already cover again that we're not mental health professionals
We are
and
not.
that we're going to be there for our viewers and they can find us anywhere? Did we also ask them to like, share, and subscribe and hit the notification bell?
We did not. I forgot that, but absolutely do all those things that pretty lady said. And I told them about the shirts. I told them they can contact us on in the whatever. Yeah, Tango handles the social media stuff. Um, we have the email address, and we're all very accessible. If you need somebody, like even if it's just somebody weird on the internet, like I'll listen, man. I'll talk to you. We talk about this stuff even when we're not on the air. A lot of us sit around and talk about all this stuff. We try to plan for these shows. I do consult my mental health professional. I'm going to try to get her on. She's a lovely lady. I'm very thankful for her. So, if nobody else has anything else to add, we can kind of wrap it up. I think we're almost an hour and 40 minutes. So, no, nothing else.
I think that's it.
Well, kids, that is the end here. And I would say, same thing I say at the end of every show. Somebody yells out OH, UL, IO, especially during Ohio State football season. We do that. That's not an option. Absolutely. Sorry, didn't mean to get aggressive, but we are aggressive about college football around here. We do have the college football recap show coming out probably the day after this. And so we're gonna cover that. And just be nice to people, man. Fucking, it's way easier to be nice to people. It'll get you way further in life. Be nice to people. Have good people. Form a support system. Think about your mental health. Know yourself, and go do something fun. Make yourself feel good. Think about self care. Find good people, even on the internet, just like this. And with that, have a cursed day.